Hello, everyone, and welcome to Walking Through the Bible. We live in a world that is filled with conspiracy theories. It almost doesn't matter what the topic is. There's a conspiracy theory about it that someone is out to get you, that something is about to happen that would be bad, or that something didn't actually happen when evidence shows that it did. What makes it a conspiracy is that a group of people have secretly banded together to cause this something to happen or not happen, and that by hiding it from you and the broader society, they're causing you harm or making ill-gotten gains themselves. And while it is true that sometimes there are actual conspiracies, the overwhelming majority of conspiracies that people believe in today are simply made up by people seeking to divide and deceive. But lest we think that conspiracy theories are an invention of the 20th and 21st century, we can find them here in the book of Nehemiah, caused by none other than Sanballat, enemy of the Jews. So, if you have a Bible with you, you can turn to the book of Nehemiah, to chapter 6. We're going to be reading from verses 1 to 7. If you don't have a Bible, don't worry, just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we're going to be reading from is the New King James Version. So, Nehemiah chapter 6, beginning at verse 1. Now it happened when Sanballat, Tobiah, Geshem the Arab, and the rest of our enemies heard that I had rebuilt the wall, and that there were no breaks left in it, though at the time I had not hung the doors and the gates, that Sanballat and Geshem sent to me, saying, Come, let us meet together among the villages in the plain of Ono. But they thought to do me harm. So I sent messengers to them, saying, I am doing a great work, so that I cannot come down. Why should the work cease while I leave it and go down to you? But they sent me this message 4 times, and I answered them in the same manner. Then Sanballat sent his servant to me as before, the 5th time, with an open letter in his hand. In it was written, It is reported among the nations, and Geshem says that you and the Jews plan to rebel. Therefore, according to these rumors, you are rebuilding the wall that you may be their king. And you also have appointed prophets to proclaim concerning you at Jerusalem, saying, There is a king in Judah. Now these matters will be reported to the king. So come, therefore, and let us consult together. Since chapter 3, with a slight detour in chapter 5, we have been looking at the rebuilding of the wall in Jerusalem under the governorship of Nehemiah. The Jews had been back in the land of their ancestors for almost a century by this point, and yet the wall remains in ruins, likely since the time of Nebuchadnezzar, who destroyed them about 140 years prior. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that every stone or group of stones were completely gone, but there were holes and gaps in the wall, or in large sections of the wall, that meant the wall wasn't really a wall, for it provided Jerusalem and the temple no real protection. And that feature is how the neighboring nations liked it, for they likely saw the returning Jews as invaders, having been dispossessed of their land by the Chaldeans a century and a half earlier. They, the Samaritans, had been brought in, and it is they who thought they should be able to be the major player in the land, under Persian rule, of course. If the wall had been allowed to have been rebuilt, the status quo could change. The Jews could take an offensive position rather than a defensive one. They wouldn't be as susceptible to outside threats, allowing them to grow in number and in strength. And to some extent, they were right, for the Jews in Nehemiah's day only lived in Judea. But by the time of Jesus, 4.5 centuries later, they were all over the land, including in Galilee to the north. In order to stop this threat, Sanballat and Tobiah, along with Geshem the Arab, first tried psychological warfare by taunting the Jews to get them to stop building the wall. Then they tried the threat of a military attack, but that failed as well, as Nehemiah set up a guard and the work continued unabated. The wall was now almost done, with the only thing left was to hang some of the gates. What was Sanballat and his followers to do? Well, first they thought of getting Nehemiah off by himself and killing him. Their plan was, under the guise of seeking a regional meeting, to kill Nehemiah at that meeting, and with their leader now dead, the Jews would be demoralized, work on the wall would be stopped, and then Sanballat could send his troops in there to destroy the wall again. The place for this meeting was in the plain of Ono. The plain of Ono is named after the town of Ono, which is mentioned in 1 Chronicles 8, verse 12, Ezra 2, verse 33, and Nehemiah chapter 7, verse 37, and 11, verse 35. Those references show that Ono is situated close to the better-known city of Lydda, on the coastal plain of the Shephelah. This area was on the border between the Persian provinces of Judea, Samaria, and Ashdod, which made it an ideal place to suggest a meeting between rival regional governors who did not have enough mutual trust to meet in one of their respective capitals. Nehemiah saw through this plan, though, and said that he couldn't come for he was too busy finishing the wall in Jerusalem. Sanballat tried 4 times to call this meeting, and 4 times he was met with the same response. Time was running out, so that's where the conspiracy theory plan was hatched. What if they could accuse Nehemiah of wanting to rebel against Artaxerxes by making himself king, and that the building of the wall in Jerusalem was simply the first step in this master plan to free the Jews from Persian rule? Surely if word got back to Artaxerxes that he had been tricked by Nehemiah, then Artaxerxes would either send his own army to stop it, to destroy the wall and to kill Nehemiah, or allow Sanballat to do those things. Now, of course, the accusation was completely false, but whenever did the truth get in the way of a good story? Sanballat wrote that accusation down in a letter, sent it to Nehemiah, and threatened to report the contents of this letter to Artaxerxes if Nehemiah didn't come and consult with them in the plain of Ono. Now, Sanballat, I don't believe, was really wanting to send that letter to Artaxerxes, for I do believe that Sanballat knew that Artaxerxes wouldn't believe him. But perhaps he could strike fear into Nehemiah's heart that even the hint of scandal might persuade him to come. What would Nehemiah's response be? We'll find that out, the Lord willing, in the next lesson. With that, our time is up for today. The Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of Nehemiah chapter 6, verses 8 to 19, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time. We thank you for watching Walking Through the Bible today. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them below. But if you like this video, we ask that you consider subscribing to our channel so you won't miss out on other videos in our series, as well as share this video among your friends so that the saving message of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.